we've got Steph Weir here to do a read and sign session. And Steph, I should introduce you more properly. Stephanie is a speech pathologist and has used keyword sign and again, formerly Makaton. See, we're all getting too old. Supporting adults and children with communication disabilities for over 15 years. She's currently working on her PhD in children's rights and AAC and spending her free time signing and teaching signs to her 18-month-old daughter now, Steph?
Yes, that's right.
All right. And Steph's going to do this interactive practical session on reading and signing Where is the Green Sheep? One of the favourites. Okay, Steph, take it away.
All right, thanks, Libby. Excuse me. Yes, I think there's probably not a speech pathologist or teacher in Australia who doesn't know this book. So everyone, please feel free to jump in and contribute as I go along, because I'm sure it's one that all of us have used at some time or another. So I'm just going to share my screen because I did make a PowerPoint. I thought that might be easier than trying to fiddle around with the pages of the book. See how we go. Okay. Okay, so welcome everyone. Today I'm going to be talking a little bit about using keyword sign when you're reading a book. I'm quite passionate, as Libby said, about using this as an activity for teaching sign, but really just language in any mode. I think books are really engaging for kids of any age. And importantly, they have a lot of repetition in them, which means that you can provide a lot of exposure to the keywords or signs that you're targeting. And I've been doing a lot of this with my daughter over the past year and a half, so I'm keen to share a bit of what we've been doing together. And this is certainly a favourite in my house. Okay, so before we start with the book, I thought I'd just talk a little bit about interactive book reading. So interactive book reading, anybody who came to the session that I did last year, this will be a bit of a refresher, also called joint or shared book reading, is a method used to promote language and literacy skills in young children. So the most important thing about interactive book reading and what makes it different to any other method of reading is that the roles of reader and listener are interchanged between children and adults during the reading. So our goal is to use the book to spark an interaction. We want to stimulate children's language by opening a dialogue with them rather than the child or children being a passive recipient of what we're reading. So to do that, we can use some strategies to keep kids engaged, and some of those things are take turns with the child. We can facilitate opportunities for the child to take a turn. And when we're thinking about encouraging that or trying to do that, pausing and waiting is going to be one of the key strategies that we can use to try and do that. That gives the child a chance to process and respond to what you've said. Make comments about what's happening in the story and what you can see on the page. So making lots of comments can model vocabulary, grammatical structures, and different purposes for communication. So things like making an observation or sharing information or sharing a joke about something that's happening. Excuse me. And you can use the repetition of the story both to repeat key vocab so that the child hears it a lot of times and has lots of opportunity to make meaning of what you've said and signed, but also over time when you've read the story a number of times, then you can use, you can build anticipation as you're going, and you can use that and you can pause and wait to encourage a child to fill in a gap, and that's how you create an opportunity for them to take a turn. And use some of the signs that you might have modelled. Asking open-ended questions as an active listener is a really good strategy as well. So reading isn't a time to be testing the child's language, but we're looking at building them. So when you ask questions, ask open-ended questions. What can you see? Things that set up an interaction rather than closed questions that just require a yes or a no or some other one-word response. And overall, just making comments and asking questions should encourage a child to talk in more detail about the events or pictures in the book, especially for school-age children. And lastly, for those children who are engaging with the book, we want to think about expanding on the answers and any other comments they provide. So if a child provides a one-word comment, like they might say star, then you might respond by expanding that into a short phrase or something like, yes, it's a star. And there's a sheep on the star. And then for school-age children, another really important one is recasts as well. So if they're making errors on the grammar or the word order in their comments, if they say something that has an error in it, you can repeat the accurate statement back to them. And we call that a recast. And I also wanted to talk a little bit about choosing additional vocab. So for the most part, when you're reading a book, you'll be talking about what the text says and what's on the page. And of course, when we're thinking about signing, we're using the interactive vocab and natural gesture as much as possible. But if you're preparing yourself to read a book with a child or with a class, you might take some time to think about what additional vocabulary you're going to try and model or focus on specifically. So most of us will be familiar with some of these things from when we talk about them in the Keyword Sign Basic workshop. Thinking about what's interesting to the individual is really important. So motivation or having a reason to communicate is the most important factor always in communication. So when we're thinking about a book, thinking about what the child might be motivated to talk about in the book will often guide the vocabulary that we choose. Thinking about the frequency of use and the functions that language serves is also really important. So we all know we try to offer signs that offer a range of language functions. So not just nouns and names of things, we try to offer verbs, descriptive words, all those kinds of things to encourage language development. Okay, so we're going to put all of that information into practice by reading through Where is the Green Sheep together and thinking about some signs that we might use as we go. So in the spirit of interactive book reading, I'll need you to help me make it as interactive as possible. So if you feel comfortable turning on your camera as we're going through and sharing what you're signing, I think that would be fun. And I want you to think about identifying keywords in the text, think about extra comments that we might be able to make about what's happening in the pictures. And then when we're thinking about signs that we can use, of course, we're always thinking about natural gesture and the signs from the interactive vocab, but also thinking about additional signs or fringe vocab that we might need to look up. And use the chat function to share ideas or just, turn on your mic and call them out. That's fine as well. Excuse me. But before we make a start, I thought it might be useful to go over some of the keywords in this book that aren't in the interactive vocab or natural gesture, particularly just to touch on some of the regional variations in this book. Oops. Because we have a lot of colours. Sorry, I've lost my... There we go. Yeah, and so of course we have a lot of variation throughout Australia. So Libby, I might get you to chime in for me with some of the northern signs. Is there anyone in the session who's from WA? No? Okay, so we might just, I'm in Victoria, so we'll be looking probably mostly at southern and a little bit of northern variation when we do this. Excuse me. So first we've got, very importantly in this book, sheep. So sheep is, I think one that probably a lot of us are familiar with if we've worked with young children. We've sort of got, a shape with middle fingers down in a fist, and we've got thumb and pinky finger extended, and you start with it near the corner of your mouth and you pull it out twice, and that's sheep. Sheep. And then for the colours, we have green, very important in this book. Now, the way I've always done this is non-dominant hand down in front of me with palm facing down, and then just drawing up with the dominant hand on the forearm. Although I do see a variation on sign language, which is where you do it with the back of the hand. So which one are you familiar with, Libby?
Oh, more palm down is probably what I'm familiar with, but sometimes I've seen it with the blade of the hand coming up the forearm.
Yeah, so
a few little variations there, but if you've got the essential hand shape, location and movement, you've got it.
Yeah, and I always remember that one by green sleeves as well. And I think that one's consistent across Australia.
Nope, there's a northern.
Oh, there's a lot of them. Oh, that's a
It's
northern one. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, but I think the southern is also national, but keep going.
Yeah. And then we've got yellow. So yellow is on the top of the head with a round index finger and thumb and extended other fingers. And then we're going to do a little twist on the top of the head. Yep. And there's no variation for yellow, is there? There is? No. Okay. And then for orange, we're going to squeeze twice near the corner of the mouth. Orange. And I'm pretty sure that one's consistent. And then for blue, we have on the back of the hand in Victoria, and I know this one does differ. So dominant hand is going to rub up and down the back of the hand for blue. And there's a northern variation, isn't there, Liv?
And there's northern variation, which is lowering your middle finger. So that's your hand shape. I hope you can see it. And it's flicking across the palm of the hand twice, Tanya. Tanya's in New South Wales, and I can see your camera. Yes. Good. I've swapped from southern to northern back to southern. So
Tanya might be helping us out as well.
Yeah.
Okay, and then we've got red. Now in Victoria, you seem to be able to change the orientation of the palm a little bit, but the one I'm most familiar with is we use our index finger on the chin and we do a few little circles, and that's for red.
And northern, it's the crooked index finger twice down on the chin. So same place, different hand shape, different movement. So for those people in New South Wales and Queensland, you want the northern variation. And I'll just add now, you're using your dominant hand for people who are not that familiar with keyword sign. So your dominant hand is the one that does the action. I'm right-handed. I'm not sure what you're seeing on your camera. It might look like my left hand, you never know. But I'm using my dominant hand, my right hand.
Yep, and I'm using my left, just to keep things interesting. And then for Bath is a two-handed sign, and we've got, opposite movement up and down. So we've got two fists and we're rubbing up and down like we're washing, and that's for Bath. And then for bed, there is a sign for bed, but I think it makes the most sense in this context to just use sleep. We're going to do this one for the sheep that's having a sleep. And then for thin and wide, I think there's a couple of choices you could make here, but I tend to go with a little bit of natural gesture with this one, and I tend to just do thin and then do wide as well. And, I think you could do something like the sign for fat as well. That might make sense in terms of the context of the book, but I think thin and wide works as well. And then we've got swing. So I just use swing or park, and I don't think there's a variation for that one, at least in terms of southern and northern. And then for slide, I'm not actually sure about this one. I can't find a consensus, but the one I've always used is non-dominant hand palm facing down, and then dominant hand just kind of rubs down the back of it. Which is, yeah, it's looking like a slide, so it's quite iconic, that one. And then for band, I think you can make a couple of choices here. So there is a sign for band, which is similar hand shape to yellow, actually, and you wave it back and forth like you're conducting. Or I think you could do music, two-handed sign with just the index fingers moving in and out. So I think that, that's a choice you can make there. I've always actually done music when I'm doing it with my daughter. And then for clown, we've got, sort of the claw hand shape, like you're doing more, and we're, tapping on the nose. Or I think there might be a slight sort of turn.
And there's sometimes a swivel, yeah.
Yeah. Maybe like you're putting on the nose or something like that. If you're a clown, you have to dress up. And then for sun, we have the sun shining above us. Sun. And then for rain, I think this can go in terms of direction. I think you can alter this a little bit, but it's essentially rain. Rain is falling, or you can do it like this as well. And then for train, we have index finger and middle finger of the dominant hand crooked, and we sort of start up near the ear and we just move it forward a little bit, and that's train. And then for wind, I found a couple of variations for this one, but the one I quite like is this one. I think about the trees moving in the wind. And for wave, I found a couple of variations for this one as well, but I think it's relatively natural gesture and we can just do some waves. For brave, I quite like this one. I think this is a bit of natural gesture, and we're sort of psyching ourselves up, and then we're, coming up with some energy, and that's brave. We're coming up with some gusto. And then for moon, we've got a crescent moon. We're drawing that in front of us with the dominant hand. And then stars, I really love this one. I think it's very sweet. With the middle finger and thumb of each hand, both hands, we're sort of placing stars in the sky, and that's stars or star. So I think those are the main ones that occur in the text, and then we've got a few more in terms of the the names of the sheep, but they are a part of the interactive vocab and natural gesture, so I didn't put them here at the start for us to go through. Okay, so we could start when we're introducing a book by saying something to the children, like we're going to read a book today, and it's called Where is the Green Sheep? And it's written by Mem Fox. What are some other things that we might be able to say just about what's on the cover? Any thoughts? We might say something like, oh, I can see a yellow sheep and an orange sheep and a red sheep, but not a green sheep. They look happy. Yeah. We might do something like that. Yep, Tanya. How many sheep do you see? Or they look very happy. Yeah, that sounds great. And for a slightly older child, we might do something a bit more complex, If you were a green sheep, where would you hide? Or something like that. Okay. So I think if you're holding the book, and I put this into a presentation just because I thought it would make it easier for Zoom, but if you're holding the book for here, I would probably just be pointing to the book, or to the sheep that you're referring to, rather than doing a sign. So I might say, here is the blue sheep. What else could we say about this one? Not a lot going on this page. There's a couple of things. Oh yeah, he's running down a hill. Yeah, and there's lots of flowers. Yeah. It's about it, isn't there? Beautiful flowers. Yeah, beautiful flowers. Sometimes I say something to my daughter, and I say, have you ever seen a blue sheep? And she just sort of looks at me, but one day she might answer. And then we have, and here is the red sheep. He's standing on one hand. He's very strong. They're all men, my sheep, actually. That's probably not great. And here is the bath sheep. Look at all the bubbles in that bath. And I can see a ducky too. Maybe, what can you see?
Oh, I can see lots of bubbles.
Lots of bubbles. Lots and lots of bubbles, and some puddles too. He's making a bit of a mess, actually. Yeah, very wet. Here is the bed sheep. And look, he's reading a book too. He has lots of books, doesn't he? He has some flowers in his room as well. But where is the green sheep? So yeah, for this one we might say, here is the thin sheep, and here is the wide sheep. Anything else we could say about what's going on that page?
You could say, oh, the wide sheep is heavy.
Yeah, he's heavy. Very good. Might be a little bit hard to do a seesaw with the wide sheep. And here is the swing sheep. And I actually think with this one, it depends how, one goes up and one goes down on the seesaw. I think, depending on how fast you're reading as well, you might not necessarily do sheep on every page as well. That might not be the key word, because what's changing is the attribute as you go through. And here is the slide sheep. Yeah, absolutely, Jess. I love that one. Do you like going to the park? Do you like the swings? I really like the swings. I don't know the sign for skis actually, but I think that's a good one to talk about on this one. He's on the slide.
You have to look.
Yeah. And it might be
which I think is, another benefit I've always found of reading and signing books is you get to expand your vocab. Kathy, she's going to tell us. There we go.
Yeah, I thought it might be natural gesture. Yeah. He's on skis on the slide. Oh, that looks a bit scary to me. But where is the green sheep? Okay, so I don't know the word for cannon, or the sign for cannon. We have here is the up sheep, and here is the down sheep. And then we have band or band, and here is the band sheep, and he's playing lots of instruments that you could talk about there. And here's our clown sheep. He's juggling some balls on a skateboard. Wow. But where is the green sheep? Here is the sun sheep. And I think he looks like he's having a sleep too. And here is the rain sheep. He looks like he's dancing. What else could we say about this one?
Feel free to turn your mic off and yell out. Do you like going to the park? He's wearing his glasses.
Wearing his glasses. Yep.
Yep. I think, reading a book, and we're limited time today, so we're kind of whipping through this, but I think adding comments as for every page really makes it interactive and extends the language modelling you're doing for kids. So it's a really important tip, I think, for reading and signing a book.
Yeah, there's great comments coming through. I love the rainbow towel. And yes, the other sheep has a rainbow umbrella. Wow. Lots of colours. This one has a lot going on. So we can say, here is the car sheep and here is the train sheep. But look at everyone else who's in the train. We have a cow, we have a snake, we have some rabbits, we have a cat on the train. And look who's driving the train. It's a chicken. Oh my goodness. I've never seen a chicken driving a train before. So we have here is the wind sheep. I did try to look up the sign for kite. I couldn't find that. Anybody know that one?
Kathy, you there?
I am here. Sorry, what was the sign?
Kite.
Kite. No, I'm not familiar with kite, but I'll have a look at it while you're talking.
Thank you.
Thank you.
In the meantime, you might again do a natural gesture of what's the sheep doing, hanging onto the kite, looking up into the sky.
Yeah, he's hanging on very tight, and he looks like he's on the beach. Because next to him is the wave sheep, and he's surfing on a surfboard.
Lovely sign, that one.
Yeah, it's very cute, isn't it?
Before we move on, no formal sign on sign bank for kite. So it probably is just a natural gesture.
He's
Cool.
flying a kite. That looks like fun. So we have here is the scared sheep, and here is the brave sheep. But where is our green sheep? Sorry, stop that up. Where is the green sheep? This one we didn't go through in the vocabulary at the start, but I think this one's interesting because you could do some formal signs. So you could do something like beside for near and far for the far sheep. But I often just do, I kind of use the context of the book for this one, and we often do, here's the near sheep, here is the far sheep. So I think you could put a bit of variation in that one, because this one, kids quite like this one. It's quite funny. And here is the moon sheep, and here is the star sheep. And look, there's lots of different colors for the stars as well. So this one we have lots to say to finish up. So, but where is the green sheep? I can see a sheep that's swimming. I can see a sheep who's riding a bike. I can see 2 sheep who are drinking tea. And what else can you see?
Turn your mic off, yell it out. What would you say? Make some comments for this page.
Look at the yummy cake.
Ah, nice.
Red cake.
Look at the yummy cake. It's a red cake. Yeah, I can see a sad sheep.
Mhm. Mhm.
And where is the fishing sheep?
He's on a boat.
on a boat. I can see one sheep who's very happy. And I can see one sheep who's dancing again. He looks like he's having fun. Okay, but where is that green sheep? Turn the page quietly. Let's take a peep. Here's our green sheep, fast asleep. Finish.
Okay, fabulous. Who's got some questions? And while we're doing that, actually, I'm going to put a link in the chat. And if you'd like to follow that link, it should take you to a Dropbox folder where we've put 2 different drafts of some resources that we're working on to support reading books with sign. Thank you, Liz. Yeah, it is great. It's a great book for using sign. It's a great book. So I might share my screen, Steph, if you're happy for that.
Yeah, no
If I
worries.
can find what I'm looking for. Make sure I've got it. Where is it?
You all right, Libby?
Yes, I'm trying to share my screen. Is that going to work? Nope.
You can't see share your screen, or?
No, I know. I'm trying to find the right screen to share.
Okay.
Okay, that's not working. Here it is. Okay. So first one we've got would be laid out like this with the text on the side and then the key signs to the right, just to cue you in to what the signs are as you're learning. So on and so on and so on. The other layout could be, that's the same one. Let's go back. The other way that we might lay it out is with the text aligned with each sign, such as this, and so on and so on. Now that would be a document that you could download and print out and use to help yourself remember what the signs are until you're pretty fluent with them. We'd be interested in any comments about which you might prefer, and also interested in the last few minutes in any other comments or questions that you've got. So give us your feedback. Okay, we've got a thank you. Our pleasure. Learn to describe near and far. Very good. And again, you can see in that session that sometimes you might decide to use natural gestures where there might be a sign. And I think depending on the language level of the child that you're reading with, you may also decide to look up particular signs to support them to expand their sign vocabulary. So you've got a range of options always, thinking about what's the language level that you're targeting for that person. Yep, asking one of your verbal students to read and sign some pages. Great, yes, thank you, pleasure, thanks. Excellent.
So Libby, I taught Charlie, or I used to read this to Charlie and sign when she was younger. She's just turned 8. And I found out recently from her teacher that when they were reading it at school, doing a project or something around it at school, that she asked if she can sign along with it. So she still knew the signs and she hasn't used them a lot at home.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They do stick around in your mind.
Yeah. But it was great that she was confident enough to use that at school.
Yeah, excellent.
Can I tell you, my daughter did that as well. I mean, she's 18 months and she's been signing along to Where is the Green Sheep and Brown Bear at daycare, but they don't know sign. So they weren't picking up what she was doing. And I walked in one day to pick her up when they were doing Brown Bear and she was sitting watching the reading and she was doing some signs. And they were just blown away because they hadn't realised that that's what she was doing. They thought she was just getting really engaged and gesticulating during the reading, and they didn't know she was signing. But I think it also says quite a bit about the communication environment as well, because she started to drop off her signs at daycare, but she still uses them.
And she's not seeing them, which is what's going to happen. Yeah, and that's okay because she doesn't really need them. It's just a nice thing you've been doing at home. But I think for kids that do need them, yes, it's all about that communication environment again.